The ancient Yoruba did not write. Their history was written by others. These chronicles were frequently conjectures, opinions, or just made up. One way of determining whether a particular story was true was to apply the plausibility test. That is, the quality of being credible to an ordinary thinking person. On a scale of 1 to 10, a score of less than 5 made a story unconvincing. That the Yoruba sold slaves to the Europeans fails the plausibility test, in part because of the fortresses and slave castles. If the Yoruba were truly their trading partners, the Europeans would not have needed to build these fortresses. The fortresses were designed and built like military bases on promontories or hills near the mouths of rivers. Ensconced within these castles were armed crews. Fortresses were built because, as chronicled by the Portuguese Zuzura, earlier lightly armed slave raiders were killed by the natives. British slave ships, particularly in the early days of the slavery, were warships belonging to the government or royal family. The Royal Navy provided protection for others. These are features of military operations. In reality, the European slavers had no need for the participation of the Yoruba in acquiring their slaves. They had the capability to independently conduct expedition raids for slaves from their fortresses. The Yoruba lived on the coast. The Yoruba lived along the banks of rivers. There were enough Yoruba people in these villages for the European slavers to confine their raids to the coast or along navigable river banks without having to venture into the hinterland. In 1562, for example, John Hawkins in no time at all captured 300 slaves on the coast of Sierra Leone. Capturing slaves was easy for the Europeans. The natives were, for all practical purposes, defenseless. Cutlasses and clubs were their only means of resistance, no match against European guns. The British, Portuguese, and other European maritime powers used the West Africa route to take advantage of trade winds and currents favorable for crossing the Atlantic. More than 40 ports were built along the coast of West Africa for stopovers for ships on the way to the Americas. From 1500s, the European maritime powers had begun to make colonies in the Americas. Settlers traded raw materials for finished goods from the homeland in an economic system called mercantilism. The system required lots and lots of laborers in the Americas. What attracted European merchants to slavery was the fact that Africans were available practically for free. The only trade to do was with slave raiders already ensconced within the slave castles. The Europeans traded with other Europeans in the transatlantic slavery. They did not trade with the natives. Thank you.